Yeah, 2014. That's when I first started going, the reason one of the reasons TSN sent me to the Grand Slams in 2014 is because of what Jeannie was doing. She made the semis in Australia. She followed that up with a semifinal in Paris, and then the finals at Wimbledon, fourth round of the U.S. Open. Nobody won more matches in the Grand Slams that year on the women's tour than Jeannie Bouchard. She didn't win a major, but she won more matches. She was in the mix every Grand Slam. Probably the greatest. I know she didn't win one, so maybe you'd say Bianca Andreescu just because she won the U.S. Open that year in 2019. But probably the best Grand Slam season ever by a Canadian singles player, just with how she was in the mix at every Grand Slam, so consistent. She won a title. Everything felt so amazing. Like it was like Canadian tennis was having a moment. Everyone was into it. Jeannie had the personality for it too. Raonic had more staying power, of course, and he had more long runs. But Jeannie's personality was so engaging that I felt like everyone had an opinion on her. Everyone was interested in it. And she really captured the imagination, but it was too short. And 2015 was a bit of a disaster. She felt the pressure. She spoke very openly about that. And then she finally seemed to get her game back at the U.S. Open before the real sliding doors moment of her career, which was the slip and fall in the locker room late at night, which led to a concussion, forced her to withdraw when she was in the fourth round of the singles. And who knows, maybe where things go if she doesn't get that injury and she's able to build on that momentum. So it was an electric career, but it was way too short. And it's too bad because what a personality. And her game when she was on, the aggressive style, she was fun to cover, that's for sure.
Yeah, the magazine was Sports Pro, London magazine that bills itself the leader in global sports industry news, views, insights, and features. Now, I don't know enough about it. Maybe it's some guy's basement in like Liverpool or something, and the guy has absolutely no reason to call himself or state himself in those regards, but released its annual list of the top 50 most marketable athletes in the world in 15. And at the top of it was Jeannie Bouchard. 21-year-old Canadian Jeannie Bouchard, followed by Neymar, Jordan Spieth, Missy Franklin, Lewis Hamilton, Rafa Nadal, Andy Murray, Serena Williams. Like, she was ahead of all of them on this list. And that was because the three semifinals, the Wimbledon final, and then, like you said, slip and a fall, and she never was competitive again. Kind of crazy. Go ahead, Jonas.
She had one big moment after that, really big moment where you remember Sharapova had the doping ban,
yep.
And she came out and she said she felt that Sharapova should be banned for life, and nobody was really saying that, no one on tour at least, and they ended up playing each other in Madrid. I believe it was 2017, and it was like this grudge match, and she beat her in 3 sets, and it was a big moment. Like, she really stared her down at the net, at the handshake. But you're right. After that, it was not at the Grand Slams. There was never really any more big moments. You kept waiting for her to have that resurgence, and it never really happened.
What's going on with Canadian tennis, Mark? Like, was that the peak? Are we done? Is it just going to be kind of okay?
It's the end of an era for sure. Jeannie Bouchard, Milos Raonic, Vasek Pospisil, and Pospisil's coming to the end too. I imagine we're going to hear some news on that soon. And Raonic, I asked Raonic, I said, are you ever going to play like a tournament that's known as your final term? He's like, no, I'll just be gone. And that seems to have been what's happened with him. That's kind of more his style. He was more subtle, kind of laid back in that way. So that they're done. And they were the ones that ushered in this golden age and then passed the torch to Denis Shapovalov, Felix Auger-Aliassime, Bianca Andreescu, of course, has come on, Leilani Fernandez, this next generation. But this generation, you're wondering right now, is what's going on with it, because, Auger-Aliassime, Shapovalov, Fernandez, they're all in the kind of 20s to 30s range. They've struggled to have, we've now got more than 3 years without a Canadian in a quarterfinal at a Grand Slam. And they've had their runs at lower-level events. In fact, Shapovalov is going to play in a semifinal tonight in Mexico, but they haven't been able to do it on the biggest stage. And certainly in men's tennis, it feels like, there's this Sinner Alcaraz era that's becoming unfolding right now that no one else can touch. So maybe have they even missed their window to do damage? We'll see. They're all young enough still to do it, but it does feel like it's been a tough patch. I am very excited about an 18-year-old Vicky Mboko from Burlington, Ontario, who just made her Grand Slam debut in Paris, got into Wimbledon as a lucky loser and knocked out a seeded player. People are very, very excited about her potential at 18 and where she's going to go. She'll get a wild card. She'll play in Montreal. And then on the men's side, Gabriel Diallo who qualified for the U.S. Open last year, made the third round. He took Taylor Fritz to 5 sets at Wimbledon. Fritz goes on to the semifinals. He's a bit of a late bloomer, went to Kentucky, went the college route, and he's up to now in the 30s range. Could end up being seeded for the U.S. Open. So I'm very excited about the prospects of Mboko and Diallo as maybe that next generation that hopefully can push Shapo and Felix and Layla, and we can get a whole group of guys, kind of that pack hunter mentality, so that Canada can get back to some deep runs in Grand Slams, which we haven't seen in a while.
Okay, love it. Love the updates. Really appreciate it, Mark. Little hockey, little tennis. Perfect mix, I think, in July.
It's a weird time for me because I'm getting ready to go to the World Junior Summer event next week, but it's also coinciding with the National Bank Open, so I'm kind of juggling some interviews on both ends, and I'm like, I am the only person in the world who has this problem.
Yes.
Like trying to fit in tennis with World Junior Summer stuff. So it's a weird time of year, but it's fun.
Yep. Crush it like you always do. Thank you, Mark.
Thanks, guys.
Mark Masters. Yeah, the World Junior Camp. I guess Gavin McKenna will be there, right? Running the show. Future Penn State Nittany Lion. Just a little bit disappointing. I'm sure out there that's big news, right, Strud? Not playing in the WHL.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, everything's changed so much with that now that players can go from CHL to NCAA. That's massive, and I think that. I definitely don't know anyone who knows everything how it's going to play out, because now here we call the Alberta Junior Hockey League or BCHL, do they become feeder leagues to the Western League, and now Western League is feeding their top players onto the NCAA. Like, no disrespect to Medicine Hat, but would you rather play there in Alberta or go to a college down in the States and get paid way
paid
more?
A lot. $1 million Canadian almost.
It's huge, man. It's really going to change the landscape. And even American players coming up to WHL or to CHL, does that change the number of spots that are available for Canadian players? So I don't think that the general public is really understanding what this can all mean.
Yeah, it could be a drastic change in the next decade. It really is. And I'm not sure any of the parties involved know exactly where it's going to go.
Yeah.
All right, Bob Weeks on day 2 of the Open Championship. Scotty Scheffler solo lead at 10 under. Corey Connors made the cut. He's playing into the weekend, the only Canadian to do so. We're on now with Bob in about 15. Overdrive continues, TSN 1050 and on the TSN app.